And we are back together again. Preston is still a little under the weather, but nothing could stop us from talking about some of the latest developments happening right now. No, it's not Winds of Winter. It's even better. Episode 8, the finale of Season 2, finally leaked. We've had no leaks this entire season, but here it is. Finally, it wouldn't be a Game of Thrones tradition without at least one leak.
It's true. Remember that year? All 4 episodes got leaked at the same time.
Glorious. Good times. Good times. And then in season 1, we had quite a few leaks. Season 1 House of the Dragon, we had quite a few leaks as well. I think episodes 1, 2, and 3, and then maybe another one, and then the finale. So, hey, look, I'm enjoying it. I'm having a good time. And, of course, for those of you who are wondering, am I going to have another non-spoiler review? You damn right I will. I just have to pick which network I want to say gave me a review copy. It might be the Cartoon Network. It might be MTV. Or MTV2. Who knows? But, no, we're not here to talk about all the goodness of the leaks. We're here to talk about some of the bad stuff from the leaks. Preston, do you want to take it away, or?
I mean, we can talk a little bit. So, I mean, we haven't seen every single moment of the final episode, but a good amount of it leaked, and we watched these leaks of some of the key scenes of the final episode. And granted, there's a few things going on. Like, one, because the leaks were poor quality, like it's somebody filming a screen and uploading it to TikTok, you're not drawn into the art and you're not enthralled, and so there's not like that kind of moment of like enjoying the cinema of it. You're kind of left like examining the events on screen, saying, do I like these events? And do I like this dialogue going on, rather than getting the whole full experience. So I do admit that like we're probably going to be harsher than we would have been on like the proper episode if we were watching it in like, all of its regular glory. Does that makes sense?
Yes, 100%. And hey, look, man, once again, I'm going to be very real with you. We're YouTubers. It would be great if we, as YouTubers, got the episodes ahead of time, like some other YouTubers did this season, and that would be phenomenal. That way we can get to work early and put this out and maximize our viewing and subscriber potential. But yeah, I get what you mean, and I'm gonna be very real with you. I hate when leaks come out. I truly do. Like I know I was being sarcastic and ridiculous in the beginning, but I would rather have it to where we can all watch it together, because that's part of the experience. Tweeting about it as it comes out, like all the twists, all the turns, all the like the cool dialogue, the cool shots, like seeing it for the first time together. I remember you always telling me about how it was such an experience on social media, everyone watching together the first season of Westworld, and how cool that was. And
going through those twists and turns, yeah.
Of course. And it sucks that, it leaked, but at the same time, look, this is a business. It is what we do. So, of course, we have to talk about it, because if we don't...
We have to.
It's silly on our part. Sorry for the rambling, everybody. I know Preston can't stay on for too long. He's still got to rest his throat. So, we got to talk about the major thing that went down in this episode. Obviously, spoilers. But the major thing was... Daemon is given a vision by putting his hand on the weirwood tree. Real quick, before we started recording, I told you I'd give you a little tidbit about that weirwood tree.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't know this because it was hard to tell, but this was actually the behind the scenes for episode 7. They carved the Harrenhal weirwood tree in George's likeness.
Oh, okay.
You're not at all like, oh, it's just whatever.
I mean, George puts his own likeness everywhere in his books. It just seems like somebody would do that. I thought they did it to one of the busts. One of them was George W. Bush. I think one of them was George R. Martin as well.
Here's I sent you on Facebook. Here's
the
a close up of what it actually looks like. I said it kind of looks like George.
I get it. I mean, but on this, I guess so. Yeah. It's the George's flat nose. Yeah, it's,
But yeah, Daemon puts his hand on
but
the
on
weirwood
Daemon,
tree.
so we kind of knew that just in general, Daemon was going to be making a turn and realizing that like Rhaenyra was the in the end he needed to come back to Rhaenyra and do God's Eye. I didn't expect that Daemon's coming about, and we kind of even thought that like Alice Rivers would help Daemon realize like that he needed to become a hero. He needed to stop being a rogue prince and a philanderer and a bastard and become a hero. And we thought that Alice Rivers would like help him come to that conclusion. And I thought that final moment of him coming to that conclusion would have been the God's Eye, like the end of his story. And instead it's done all at once. It's not that Alice Rivers kind of helps him come to the conclusion. She just like completely like overcomes his mind and he becomes a different person. And it's one of the worst choices I could have possibly thought for what to do with the Daemon character. It's astoundingly bad to me. Like you're taking all agency out of a character and you're bringing in divine intervention essentially and saying, you're good now. Now you're going to do everything good. Like that's essentially it, right? Like God touches Daemon and changes who he is fundamentally.
Or at least God's messenger, because Alice Rivers has Daemon touch the weirwood tree, and then he gets the visions.
What I'm saying is the tree is God, right? The old gods, right?
Sure, yeah.
And they put fucking George's face on it just to drive home the point that the tree is God, right? So you just like you had this like hopeless, reckless character, and you're like, oh, how is he going to come? Like it's no longer his struggle anymore. He no longer changes his mind. He just fucking like it's made for him. The decision is made for him. The journey is made for him. It's one of the worst. It's just the worst thing that I could have possibly thought to put in the episode.
So I agree with you on it, messing with his character. And before I go into my issue with the scene, I just want to back you up on something, because privately we talked about it and you were mentioning how this goes against George's writing. And I know you're going to go into detail in a minute, but I know some random is going to complain about you specifically in my comment section, saying that you're just being grumpy. You just want a reason to complain. No, clearly Preston is criticizing this scene as someone who is a fan of George R.R. Martin's work. You're one of the very few Ice and Fire YouTubers who has gone into his stuff beyond this, this one thing. So you're coming at it from the perspective of having studied his catalog of books. So your criticism here has weight behind it. And it's not blind hate. That said, I agree with you. Like, we spent this entire season with him at Harrenhal, him having these visions sent to him by her specifically. I felt as though, like, this is for the reason of character development. He's supposed to go through this whole thing, and that towards the very end, when he meets Rhaenyra again, he's going to swear his love and loyalty and fealty to her because, he's gone through this change. But this completely, you're right, this completely takes that away from his character, and you're left to wonder, would he have sworn his loyalty, his love, his fealty to her had Alice not shown him these visions?
Right, or said, you can meet me on equal ground. That's my deal, which is what he kind of, it was a stated objective before. Like I'm king. I'm just as much king as you are queen. We're equal, is what he kind of said. That was what he was kind of like hinting at. Not even hinting at. He says it.
Was it you who called it? I think it was you when you said something like maybe she's working with time traveling Bran, or maybe she's like a skin changer or a green seer.
I mean, we definitely were talking about her being green seers and things like that.
So I guess she's on the board, and I guess she's preemptively working for Bloodraven, because we get to see
Bloodraven. We see Bloodraven. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The whole like. And this will bleed into some of the other scenes and why I hate them so much. But it spoils everything about a character's journey. Like, what does it tell? Like, what does this tell us about the human condition? that like we can't go and have struggles and like change, that we have to like expect to have like divine intervention? Like, what does it tell us about the relationship between Daemon and Rhaenyra? Nothing. Because he just changed his mind because of the others. Instantly and all at once. What does it tell you about Viserys? Nothing. What does it tells us? Nothing. It tells us nothing about Daemon. What does it tell us about him and his mother? Why was it important that he was fucking his mom? Nothing. You're part of the story. This is what's even more atrocious when you step back and say, okay, Daemon, when the prophecy was brought up to Daemon at the end of season 1, okay, and he thought that Viserys was weak for believing in prophecy, for believing in destiny, and then he chokes Rhaenyra, and the idea is that, okay, he's into free will. Human beings make their own destiny, but he's also a horrible wife beater and a horrible guy. But now he believes in destiny, and that, and now he's a good person because destiny is the proper way for human beings to think, that we're not responsible for our own destiny, that we don't make our own choices. Like, what's the fucking message of the goddamn series? Because it is so the exact opposite of what George R.R. Martin believes. It is fundamentally the exact opposite of what George R.R. Martin believes. Because George R.R. Martin believes, he's an existentialist and believes that like we define ourselves and our choices matter. And that there is no God and there is no destiny and we forge our own path. Like, that's definitely George R. Martin's belief.
Well, on that topic, real quick, I can see Aemon's character going forward being one of those guys who tries to defy destiny, tries to defy fate. So, to be fair, we can still have that type of person come in and do something here with this, but... and I guess Helena now is confirmed to be a dreamer, which, yeah, them confirming it, okay, fine. It's just, I don't want another character that their whole shtick is like, know the future, everything is pointless, and that's kind of what she's being right now. I would have loved it if they had Helena somewhat struggle with what she's been going through and she can't really explain it. Like, it's just, to me, a character isn't as fun when they know the future and every action or emotion they have is around that whole thing.
Well, let's transition to that and why that scene also sucks. Okay. So we got a character like Helena. She must be feeling lots of crazy stuff. For instance, about the death of her son. By the way, is her daughter ever around? Whatever. but the death of her son, the fact that her brother tried to kill her husband and mutilated her husband and things like this. Her mother having an affair and going off the rails. She must be wrestling with a lot. When presented this almost romantic offer by Aemond to go into battle together, side by side on Dragon, she rejects him. And she rejects him on the basis of, well, the prophecy is already laid. Like, you're going to die and Aegon's going to come back. Like, oh, so you don't actually have to make any decisions for your fucking self. Like, as a character, you have no agency. You're just like, well, the story is here and I can't do anything else.
And what's worse is that now we have two characters, Alice and Helena, who can now tell the future. They know what's going on. It's almost like a meta commentary on how all of this is somewhat pointless. You can't fight fate. This is what's going to happen. And yeah, you have Aemond, who is probably going to try to fight fate. But like, it's just, I kind of miss it in the books when Alice was her own random side character with her own situation. But they somehow just made her somewhat of a pseudo Bloodraven-esque character who like knows everything that's about to go down. Or kind of like Bran, where she knows everything's kind of going to go down, and that's never fun, at least to me.
It also it works as a side character where it's like a random distraction from the story, not a central thing where we're thinking about, where the characters are actually thinking about their destiny and how they're going to die, how they're going to die. I'm just saying, she doesn't make any choice for herself. Daemon's not making a choice for himself. Helena's not making a choice for herself. And say we get to that point where Aemon's like, I can fight my destiny. And then you're like, you can't fight your destiny. What kind of fucking message is that? Like, it's Terminator 3 after Terminator 2, which is exactly why everybody hates Terminator 3.
I think what also annoys me the most is that I've actually been enjoying the hell out of this season, and I've been doing my reviews. There are things that I didn't like, but for the most part, I have been enjoying the hell out of this season, and I've been even defending it against people saying, I'm bored. Well, like shut the fuck up. And what annoys me is that, this is one of those things where you had to stick the landing for this season. Everything so far has been great, but, that final episode really needed to send it home, and in my opinion, it doesn't really do that. And it doesn't do that because that vision is connecting us with one of the worst storylines, at least the ending to a storyline, in television history. The White Walkers started off as this terrifying, almost horror-esque threat from the north in the very earlier seasons of Game of Thrones, and then it ultimately amounted to just not something that turned out that great in the grand scheme of things. And you're still coming back to that. You're still going to remind people of how much they hated season 8 of Game of Thrones. Why?
Also something that is nothing. Also the dragons, except for bringing down the wall, what did the fucking dragons do? They fucking did nothing. Arya jumped out of the fucking tree or whatever. The vision should be of Arya in Bravo's training and that montage.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Once again, this incessant need from Ryan Condal to try and connect back to Game of Thrones, I don't understand it. It's unnecessary because have you been living under a rock for the last 5 years? People did not like Game of Thrones season 8, and they still don't. 5 years later, no one likes it. What's the point? Right. Instead of writing your own show, your own legacy, and being your own thing, you always want to be attached to this one thing that did not have a good finale. Why?
And like I say, it's also a connection that's so detrimental. The idea of set destiny and fate destroys a story. It destroys, because then humans aren't responsible for their actions, and then all of a sudden, what's the human condition? If art is about an examination of the human condition, what's the fucking human condition if we're just robots, going through motions that are set? What's the fucking point? And it's you could say what's the fucking point? It's a prequel. We know how it all ends. And it's well, the point is to learn about the human condition and experience all of the emotions and the choices that people make along the way to understand human beings. But now we found out that they're not even making choices because they're human beings. They're making choices because of divine prophecy getting shoved in their fucking heads.
Preston, stop it. Metaphor and themes are for 5th grade book reports. What's wrong with you?
Right, but these aren't even human beings making choices anymore. They're literally automatons getting fed visions to force their choices. And I'm not talking in any sort of subtle way, Jaime gets a vision and then decides to go back to Harrenhal. No, it is overwhelming, fire hose vision of Daemon that fundamentally changes him as a person.
Just to play devil's advocate for a second here, this could still be good. They could still salvage this kinda by having these people try to fight against fate, knowing fully well what's going to come out of the north, this big threat. They could still maybe potentially try to, change their destiny. They're going to fight against it, and they reject it, and that'll be their new struggle going forward, I would hope. Because, maybe I'm just coping here, but
But this is what also pisses me off about removing Nettles. The thing is Nettles is all about right? Like human choice, and like a person's individual tenacity, like breaking all of the things that tell you that of what should be a dragon rider. No, your blood is what defines you as a dragon rider. It's built in. There's your destiny. It's your destiny to be a dragon rider, or it's not, because it's in your blood, or it's not. And Nettles is like, no, you know what? I can choose to be a dragon rider. That's what was fucking awesome about Nettles. And you remove her and you put in fucking wet blanket Rhaenyra and you get nothing. You get nothing. Ugh.
Rhaenyra, who spent the entire... Like, I think if you add up a total of all her screen time this season, I think it amounts to less than 5, maybe 8 minutes.
Yeah.
It's...
5 minutes of wet blanket. I would say that she was slightly more entertaining than, and I love Father so much, but Alan of Hall scenes, like why were there so many fucking Alan of Hall scenes? What are some of the other scenes I want to talk about? I want to talk about Larys coming to get Aegon and them making a joke of Aegon's penis exploding into a flaming hot dog.
I did not see that scene, actually. I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh God.
Are you serious?
So Larys comes in and is like, so they've decided to have the flight of Aegon early. Aegon normally has his flight during Rhaenyra's conquest. And now they've decided to make his flight preemptive because he fears Aemond, not somewhat very preemptive on an invasion from Rhaenyra, but mainly because Aemond wants to kill him. And so Larys comes in and is like, we've got to flee. And Aegon's like, yeah, what's the point? And he's like, we can live in Braavos. And he's like, and then it's all played like as a joke. He's like, I don't have a penis anymore. And he's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. So we can grab a ship. And he's like, my penis like exploded like a hot sausage in a fire. And he's like, and he ignores him. And he's like, yeah, we needed to grab a ship. And then I've got a lot of gold. And he's like, when I pee, it just runs down my leg. And you're just like, what the fuck am I watching here? Like,
I did not see that clip. Are you serious?
Oh my God.
This sounds like a joke.
I'm complete. I mean, it's trying to be.
Why?
But like, they were trying to have a funny scene. But like, no human being. Could you imagine, for instance, Theon like speaking that way about what happened to him, or Grey Worm?
Dude, I hated towards the end of season 8 when like all it was between Varys, all the witty banter between them in season 2.
Yeah.
At the end, it all amounted to like dick and dwarf jokes. Like, that's it?
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. But it's just like, it's one thing to even have a dick joke, but this is like what human being would ever speak about their own like castration that way? Like who would speak about it that way? It's just took everything out of it. And it's just like, and Larys is playing the scene completely straight. Like, oh yeah. I mean, are we supposed to, is the audience supposed to chuckle and be like, ha 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 ha, his penis exploded in flames. Like, ha ha ha, so funny. Like what like, oh God. Oh, there was a lot of bad scenes. A lot of fucking bad scenes. And the fact that Alicent and Rhaenyra meet fucking again. And it's even more useless than the first time. Did you watch that one?
Yeah, I did. And the entire episode ends with like Alicent overlooking the sunset. Like, bro, whatever, man. It's annoying because like, Alicent had a great scene in the beginning of the episode with Helena, and like Aemond comes barging in. I like that. But then like, yeah.
But like, where we thought Alicent's character was going, which was like, oh, your fuck-ups are causing a lot of pain in your family, is not where the plot went at all. It instead was, power was taken from you, and now you're rudderless. And it's like, oh, so the whole like her fucking Kristen Cole and allowing her grandson to get killed and then convincing her son to go off to battle and then, or accidentally convincing her son to go off to battle. Like, she doesn't feel guilty about either of those things. Those don't affect her psyche at all. Her story is completely about being cast aside for her like advice. It's just, and then they had the nerve to have a fucking scene where Rhaenyra's like, I'm going to go to war and a lot of people are going to die. Last episode, you just let like 300 people get burned and eaten before your eyes.
They were mongrels, Preston. They were mongrels. Who cares?
Oh, God.
Mongrels.
Oh, my God.
We can talk about that for when we do the podcast for episodes 6 and 7, because I know, man, I know. It's
I didn't expect to get so worked up and angry about this.
Like every conversation that you and I have in private, it's always like, all right, we'll talk for 10 minutes. And we end up talking for like 30. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
All
right, man.
You want to wrap it up here?
Sounds good.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us on this special little episode of the podcast. We'll see you guys next time for episode 6 and 7, and then for the finale. Have a good one.